Box and whisker plots, or box plots, is a visual way of representing the 5 statistical symmetry of a dataset, or the dataset's distribution. It involves the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. Recall that between each of these individual numbers, 25% of the data lies, so that if we were to plot these values that we calculate for a data set over a number line, we get a visual representation of where the data falls. So we have 25% in each of these sections. It also, with the box, we can see where the middle 50% lies, and we can see the overall range of the data as well. So how do we create this? Well, first, starting with the data set, we're going to have to calculate all of the values of the statistics that we need to use. So I'm going to use my calculator to help me calculate these statistics. And what you need to do once you have your calculator turned on is go to the Statistics menu by hitting the Stat button, select Edit, and enter all of this data into List 1. Once you have all that data entered, you can go to Stat Calc, which is the second tab over under the Stat menu, and we want to calculate one variable statistics. So we're going to select option 1. Now we need to tell it what list we put all of our statistics in. So we typed it in list 1, and if you notice on the keypad, we have as the second function for many of these numbers, list names. So to pull up list 1, it's the second function of number 1. So hit second, list 1, and hit enter. And the calculator will calculate one variable statistics for each of these values. Now the first number, which is x with a bar over it, represents the mean. So the mean of this data is 80.4. So I'm going to write that value down. The mode we'll come back to in a minute. Now to get the minimum, the quartiles, the median, and the max, we're going to have to scroll down in this menu. So I'm going to hit the down arrow until all of those values show up. And now I can read each of them off from the calculator. So the minimum value in this data set was 58. The first quartile, 73.5. The median is 82. The third quartile is 88. And the maximum value is 98. Now I'm done with that calculator for now. Unfortunately, the mode does not come up in that statistics value in the calculator. So we'll have to physically scan the data to find it ourselves. Now remember, the mode is the most common value. So as I scan through, I don't see any repetition until I get to 80. There are two 80s, and I'm going to keep scanning, see if I have any other modes. And then there are two 88s, and that's it. So there are actually two modes for this data set, 80 and 88. When a data set has two modes, it's called bimodal. Okay, so once I have these values, how do I make my box and whisker plot? To create the box plot, I'm going to first need to start by making a number line. And I want my number line to include all the values between 58 and 98 because that's the range of values for this data set. So rather than starting at an arbitrary number like 58, I'm going to start at a nice round number like 50, the highest 10 before 58. And I'm going to go in increments of 10. So the next one would be 60, and then 70, and then 80, and then 90, and then 100. Notice I kept a nice even scale, and I tried to keep them evenly spaced apart. Now this is that number line that's going to let us do our box and whisker plot, and we're going to graph the box and whisker plot above it. So it's going to start by plotting my minimum. So I'm going to go to 58, and it's just a rough sketch. So 58 would be pretty close to 60, would be right about here. So that's 58. When you plot a point, I also want you to label what number value it is so that we can see it. And then I'm going to go to my maximum, which is 98, which is right around here, just short of 100. And I'm going to plot it at the same height as I did the minimum value. Then I'm going to move on to the quartiles and the median. Now the quartiles and the median don't get dots, they get lines, short little lines. So the first quartile is at 73.5, which is roughly here. So I'm going to draw a line segment. Now, when you draw your line segment, it should be vertical with its center lining up with the two dots. Then I'm going to move on to the median, which is at 82, which is roughly here. I'm going to repeat the same process that I did with the first quartile. And then I'm going to go over to quartile 3, which is at 88. I'm going to plot its line here. Then we're going to connect each of these with a horizontal line, and that represents the box of the box and whisker plot. And then from the center of each of sides of that box, we draw a little whisker out to the maximum and the minimum. Now what it means is it shows you the distribution of the data. Here are two other examples that I want you to try using your calculator, the solutions to which are in the answer key, which can be found on the portal. So I would like you to try them now and check your answers after you've done so.